Episode 57, Working Class on DeerCast. I am here this week with Dylon Gandee from Whitetail Edge. Dylan, nice entrance. What's up? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm real good. Both of us have tags filled, so we're probably doing a lot better than the rest of my crew, at least.
It's actually a little bit harder on me
Really?
because I've got like three absolute giants on camera, and I want another tag so bad I can't stand it.
That's good problems, though.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
survive.
Actually, I have two now. My mom whacked one.
Yeah, so let's get into that. We'll get into that here in a minute. But
All right.
dude, we've been talking about doing a podcast in our studio with Ben for too long now. And now I made that post the other day about who do you want to hear on the podcast? And then that makes it worse, probably. Yeah. But it's for people who out there listening that want to hear the Whitetail Edge boys on in the studio. We want that too. It's just getting everything to work out, especially in November. Coming out of November, it's tough.
Yeah, Ben gets so laser focused in deer season, man. It's like he's a whole other person, different animal.
Yeah.
But people are probably gonna be disappointed. They're gonna see Whitetail Edge and get all excited, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh, it's just Dylan."
I'll just make sure Dylon is like on loud and clear on the cover art. You told me not to call you Dylon, and now I'm just calling you Dylon. So that's how
if you put Whitetail Edge, it'll be clickable. Then everyone will just be disappointed.
No, they won't. They won't. You're all right. You're going to join in. How the hell did you get on Whitetail Edge? Start with that as we get going, and there's more to unravel as we get moving in.
Yeah. So, geez, it dates back a long time. Ben had an outfitting company, Wicked Ridge Outfitters. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
He had some pretty high end clients. Like bone collector boys were coming in and having great success there. And obviously
Ohio based.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, had that name from the juries and made a name for himself there. And so that's, how everyone came to know Ben. And obviously that's how I knew of Ben, was watching him. And, I was a fan of the juries and stuff like that growing up, just like I think any of us were.
Of course.
And so, like out of high school, I was just trying to find my path of what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to punch a clock and do a 9 to 5. Which I did for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It started off, I was fairly young, and Instagram was kind of new and stuff like that. And I came across Kenny Bevins, who was Ben's cameraman at Jury, on Instagram. And Kenny's just a great guy. He's willing to reach out and talk to anybody. And that's, I came to know Kenny through like Instagram messaging back and forth. And I was like, I know your buddy Ben has an outfitting company, Wicked Ridge. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, well, you should see if he's looking to hire anybody. And dude, just by fate, Ben was looking to hire somebody. And this is how
you gotta shoot your shot, man.
Exactly. So, I was going through the ringer of 9 to 5s and doing a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want to do. And Ben, I was able to get in contact with Ben. Ben reaches out and he goes, yeah, why don't you come over to my place and, we'll have an interview. So I'm like, all right.
Oh, shit, it's happening. Yeah.
So I go and meet with Ben, and we just clicked, instantly, and met the family and stuff like that. They treated me like family.
Mm-hmm.
And he hired me on, brought me on. And I guess, as you say, that, the rest is history. But, there were so many different curves and bumps along the way, that kind of changed the trajectory of where I'm at now. And, so I was helping with the outfitting and stuff, filming hunts. Long story short, I ended up going to Kentucky with Ben, filming a hunt down at Austin Musselman's from Homegrown Experience. Mm-hmm. And ended up getting sick like shortly after. And, didn't know what the heck was wrong with me. I had zero energy, like heart palpitations, high fevers. Turns out that they believe I had Rocky Mountain spotted fever from a tick.
No kidding.
Yeah. And that turned into just man. Like, it was health issue after health issue.
Did it just come out of nowhere, or was like a slow, gradual thing?
Well, at first, man, like I felt like I had a cold or something. I felt like really run down, zero energy. And I'm sleeping in, which Ben will tell you, like, I'm a sleeper.
Yeah.
But dude, like it was beyond any exhaustion I've ever had. And so I ended up going home. I was staying with my girlfriend at the time, and one night, like I ended up wetting the bed, and I was like out of it, just passed out, like out of my mind, just crazy high temperature. And they took me in, and yeah, they believe I had Rocky Mountain. So get out of the hospital was like a constant thing of like going back and forth to the hospital. I mean, it was scary on certain times. They were doing tons of testing and heart rate going through the roof. I'm on blood pressure medicine to this day. Like it really screwed me up.
Ticks are the devil, man. They're pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah, like so they ended up diagnosing it like as a fever of unknown origin is what they called it. But
That's comforting.
I had a bite on me, and when I was down there, Austin Musselman shot a absolute giant deer, but it was covered in ticks, little sea ticks, and I think I just didn't see that one.
Oh,
And
well, I mean, you can't. Some of them, you can't get it all, or you know what I mean. It's just like you can't stress out about it, but I guess just shit happens. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it now. It's whatever. I mean, it's not going to stop me from going out. I pull ticks off me all the time. So
Right, yeah. So what did it do? Ruin your stint with Whitetail Edge for a little bit? Ben's probably
yeah. I
sissy.
mean, and again, it just felt like God's timing, really. I mean, I think his timing is perfect. And so what happened was, I got sick. He had the bone collector boys coming in. I mean, it was early season Kentucky when I got sick. And, that guiding season's about to really kick off and get full swing. He needed someone there. I couldn't do it. Like I was in and out of the hospital, and it was a hard decision, but I had to leave. It was the last thing I wanted to do. I was working a dream job and young man. Well, me and Ben always stayed in touch, but I started having a family, started having a bunch of kids,
right.
And
a bunch.
Yeah, went to work for my dad doing construction, man, and I hated it. Like I went through a pretty rough spell there. Like, I just wasn't happy. And
especially from having a taste of like doing exactly what you wanted to having this something out of your control happen, and then now you have to go back to a 9 to 5. And not that all 9 to 5s are bad, but anyone that's passionate about hunting, like we're hunting, we want to be working.
Yeah,
our passion. So
exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love podcasts so much. I ended up finding Working Class. You got, like, you already know, Kurt, I've told you guys kill it.
I appreciate that.
Your butt all the time, but you guys run the outdoor podcast game. So
Thank
you. I was constantly having earbuds in because I think everyone just got sick of me talking about deer all the time.
And, probably.
Yeah.
Any day job I had, I'm like, yeah, everyone's like, dude, was this guy shut up?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like it infected my brain, man. That's all I could think about,
Yeah.
And so like I said, I stayed in contact with Ben. I kind of did some guiding and ran a leash for the boys at Major League Bowhunter and Chipper Jones and Duff. And I always kind of like tried to stay in the game, and started filming my hunts like out of high school. So before I met Ben, I was filming, and I really grew in love with that. Being able to watch your hunts back and stuff was like, I always loved bow hunting and chasing a deer, but like it was like a whole other playing field, I guess. That I like fell in love with it.
Yeah,
I just documentation and everything, and so I always did that. But and like I said, Ben and I stayed in contact. So I had a giant show up on camera. It was the first one that I filmed for Whitetail Edge. I named him the Sheriff. And I told Ben, I was like, hey, man, I got a big one on camera. I'm still filming and stuff. Like, is it something you would want to use? And he was like, yeah. And I think I killed him within like 5 days. And then the footage was just epic. I mean, couldn't have worked out better. And Ben, Ben's like, well, I guess you're on the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so since then, Ben
also how cocky too, in a good way. Like that's Chandler today is like, that's cocky. Hey, I got this big buck 5 days later. Hey, this footage is pretty awesome. Am I in or am I not in?
Yeah, it was October 3rd, man. And it was just like, it couldn't have worked out better. And he was a stud. But awesome. So yeah, that's kind of how, I ended up getting back affiliated with Whitetail Edge. And since then, I've taken over the social medias and kind of helping with marketing and stuff like that with Ben, and traveling with him and filming and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you guys, I mean, we're kind of skipping ahead. You guys just launched your own podcast.
Yeah.
Like
The Whitetail Edge podcast.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How's that going?
Great, man. Well, kind of.
It's all right.
Geez, it's a lot to learn. And it wasn't like we ever want to become podcast based, because we're always going to be video based. That's just what we do. But it was just like another way. Like, I guess there was a couple reasons why. I've been trying to get Ben to start these for a long time, and it seems like every podcast that Ben is on, the host reaches out and they're like, "Hey Ben, like this podcast is doing great, like because of you." And people just want to hear what Ben has to say. I mean, the guy is so knowledgeable. He knows so much.
Yeah.
I just think he's such a wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we release a season of Whitetail Edge, but that's only for like what, 1 or 2 months tops.
Yeah.
And then we're out of content, kind of.
Yeah. And
so
there's so much you can say on a show, like a video format show.
Exactly. So it was just like one other way for us to get some content to our followers and kind of show some appreciation to them. They're always messaging us and asking like a lot of the same questions and stuff. So I just felt like it was another way for us to cover their questions and kind of give them content.
Yeah. I like it. It's a great idea. And I feel bad, like, Ben hunts, I mean, not real close to where we're at, I'm not blowing up anybody's spot, but like definitely drivable distance where we could have you guys in studio, and we've been trying to make it happen. It just hasn't. It's not as easy as people think. Like, you can't just, the hunting's good. We're hunting. We're hunters first.
Well, you guys had some folks in and stuff like that, and Ben ended up leaving a little bit early, and then when I could have done something, Devin and Trey were there, I believe. And
yeah, it was just crazy time.
Yeah, man, it's all good. We'll figure something out,
dude. So talking deer hunting, we will get that done. So everyone that wants like a full length WCB off the walls beer drinking podcast, that's gonna happen. I don't know how much beer you drink or how much beer Ben drinks, but we always find a way to get people to drink beer when they're here.
We don't really drink. I mean, we could pour some coffee and some beer cans, I guess.
Okay. Whatever we got to do to make it work. We'll just get you caffeined up and call it good. I feel bad. I'm over here drinking beer, which it's like, what else is new? But there we go. That's all right. Hey, we have a lot of people who don't drink on the podcast, but we put out the energy and they get to match the energy. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
But we'll get into some dicey topics. I think when you guys are in, we talk about some stuff that can kind of get people hot, the listeners hot in a good way and interactive.
Good at that.
We'll think of some ideas on that one. It won't be hard.
Ben's good at that. A lot of people hate him because of the crossbow talk and corn piles, but we'll get into that another time.
Okay. To be continued. But you've had a stellar season so far. I mean, you guys are always killing it. There's no doubt about it. Like there's people in the industry you just count on are going to kill a deer or be in big deer. And anyone with Whitetail Edge is in that conversation.
Thanks.
So you killed a great buck. Your mom killed an amazing buck. So you're like Doug's mom always outshines him. And I don't know if you have that same thing going on, but let's talk about this season so far.
Okay. So the Ben struck first. I can't remember the exact date on that, but it was 2 days before I killed. He had a buck he named Tall Boy on a farm, an older mature deer. I mean, dude, he had some absolute slammers this year in Ohio, and some of them were younger deer, that he just wanted to wait out on and what have you. He ended up having one that was a 4.5-year-old. We actually posted it on our social media. We named him Magnum. I don't know if you saw that deer. He had like double drop tines on one side, but he ended up dying. He ended up dying from EHD.
That's a bummer, man.
Yeah. Well, we have never had a bout with it, with EHD. Ben's never had it, like had to really deal with it in Ohio, but
Iowa gets clobbered with it.
Yeah. Well, it hit hard here in Ohio this year, bad. So, but I guess, we started off, I filmed Ben. He shot at an absolute stud in Ohio called Tall Boy. Epic hunt, great footage. And one of the things was, me and Ben, we have not had the best of luck together, like filming. Like we've actually the worst luck. Like the craziest things happen. And so Ben shot this giant on camera, and I pan over to Ben, and he goes, oh, "We'll just get that monkey off our back," you know. And but he was an absolute stud deer. I can't wait for everyone to see that footage. It was pretty epic. And then a couple of days after that, I shot a buck that I named Tat. It was my first urban deer hunting experience.
Urban.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. It was a crazy experience.
What describe urban? Because I know urban can mean like there's urban tags in Iowa, and I know guys like it's considered urban, but they're still hunting like ag fields and stuff. And then I hear urban guys are in housing division or subdivision ravines.
That's where I was.
Does it feel motivating? Like, what I mean by that is if I can see my truck from my tree stand, it takes a little bit of like, I don't know what it does, but it makes me, I don't feel as confident. If I'm by a house, I'm like, even though there's probably still a good chance to kill. Does that make sense? You get what I'm kind of getting at?
It does, man. And like, I went in with this mindset of this urban hunting, like it was going to be a cakewalk. Especially with the Seek One boys, they make it look so easy sometimes. Sometimes, like I have great respect for Lee Ellis, man. He he's a go-getter. Like I see him knocking on doors, and I can just relate with that. And the whole reason I tried urban hunting, I've always hunted in like a country setting, always.
Right.
And in Ohio, it's gotten tough. Farms are getting chunked up. It's just crazy, man. Like you get a 40-acre block, 10 people own it. Hunting permission is extremely hard. I've lost leases to preservation parks. Can't even lease anymore. Like it's just, I don't know. Like I've put so much time into calling people and knocking on doors. I mean, by the thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, my DeerCast map looks like it has polka dot. I mean, like chicken pox,
Yeah.
Of all the people that I've called.
Well, dude, anything from Ohio to all the way over into probably Nebraska, that entire stretch, it's like impossible to find permission pieces. Public pieces are getting hammered if you're in or not into that. And it's just getting tough. Illinois is bad, but mostly any state that you can get over the counter buck tag in, it's really bad. Yeah. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. I think even Wisconsin has over the counter tags for non-residents. It's like that everywhere. I don't really know what to think of it. There's an argument in there somewhere.
I don't know. To a point, it's kind of depressing. I mean, you never thought, when I was a kid, like I never thought trying to find a place to hunt would be so hard, but it's so much more to me than just a place to hunt though. Like I want to find a giant.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to take no for an answer. Like I'm going to callus up my hand knocking on doors. And if I do, and for the past 3 years, I've hunted on brand new properties.
Yeah.
3 years in a row. Like it is what it is. And it's fine. Like I said, I'm not going to take no for an answer, but.
Well, the problem is what happens that is part of it because you're killing good deer on permission pieces. And then all of a sudden somebody's distant relatives like, oh, I want to hunt there now. And then you lose it.
That sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. I bet I've been on that road. And and what annoys me the most is like when you do that, you talk to people, man, I wish I had a piece like that. That must be nice. Like, are you doing any of the work to get a piece? Like it doesn't just come, hey, go hunt there. I don't care about anything. Have at it. Take some work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was like one of the big things. Like, I posted some of my hunts on our YouTube, and I see those comments roaring in like, no, if I had food plots like that, and like, dude, like you have no idea what I've gone through. Like you have zero idea. So while you're sitting there typing, I'm going to keep calling people. I'm going to keep knocking on doors. I'm going to find a giant, and you can just sit there and complain, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Get your backpack sprayer out and your hand rake and go put your own food plot in on whatever you have. And if you can't, figure out a spot and hustle and get your piece where you're allowed to do it. And then if you're not willing to do that, then you just can't say anything.
Yeah, dude, I'll till a food plot with a fork.
Right. I mean, if you got to do it, that's what you got to do. I
Yeah.
mean, I have equipment now for the first time in my life. And is it dude, it's equipment that is very budget friendly. It
Yeah.
leaks. I got, you know what I mean? But I've I've done it though. We've all done it. Like
Yeah.
I put food plots in with a steel rake before.
Yeah. Well, dude, when you get the keys to a brand new New Holland or something one day, you're gonna appreciate it so much more.
Oh yeah.
You know, just like Ben, man. I see like Ben all the time. He's like, dude, like I've been there where you're at. Like, because sometimes I do. I get frustrated. I get
Mm-hmm.
frustrated by getting told no, and like, I kind of get down in the dumps a little bit. But he's like, I've been there. Now Ben owns some ground and stuff like that. So it's inspiring for a guy like me to know like he came from exactly where I'm at,
Yeah.
and that it is possible. I can
But
own dirt.
I think it's easily forgotten, and that like most of these big time guys or big legendary brands or big buck killing brands in the outdoor industry all came from humble beginnings. They weren't just like a lot of these guys, I would say most of them, it's not daddy's money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Built, they built their success through hustle and hard work. And whether it's working in another construction business and then funding their side hustle, which is their hunting content project, they're doing the work. They didn't just walk on to what you see Mark Jury kill right now. He didn't just have that and has always had that.
Yep.
The same way, like you're always working to evolve. Like if you're putting food plots in with a fork right now, in 15 years, you're like, man, I'll have a tractor by then because
Yeah.
I'm working hard for something.
Oh,
Hopefully. But you never know, right? That's kind of what,
yeah.
if you did know, you probably wouldn't work as hard.
Dude, if I didn't have the tractor though, I'd still do it. Like,
Yeah. It
I mean,
sucks more, no doubt.
yeah,
But
for
you're
sure.
doing it.
But
This goes
when you're,
back into you. We're going back into you hunting urban. So we're
yeah,
bringing this back, we promise. But I just
yeah.
wanted to get on that a little bit. It's always good combo.
Well, I think it's so important, when it frustrates me to see those keyboard warriors talking that crap. And it's like, dude, you wouldn't do half the things that I do to get access, like
Yeah.
Ben all the time. He's like, geez, dude, he's like, I can't believe like how many, properties you've picked up this year. And it's just like, I like to cast a big net,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
You
And
have
I
to.
think almost like I see what Ben goes through as a landowner now too, and there's definitely some cons to owning land. Whether that be neighbors. I mean, you're putting so much into that property you own, and the variables are just stacked against you. I mean, so there's definitely some big cons to owning land too, and I kind of like where I'm at right now, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like getting permission and stuff, but yeah, let's get back to the urban deal and why I even gave that a shot. Like I said, I always hunted in the country setting. I was having a lot of bad luck losing leases, losing permission properties. Year after year, there was a lot of turnover. And so this year, I started looking at DeerCast maps a lot. They're one of our sponsors now at Whitetail Edge, which is super cool. That Ben is working with the juries again and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
yeah, looking at DeerCast maps, that's a huge tool in my arsenal as a guy that's looking for permission. And started looking at those properties that a lot of people are overlooking. I gave up on the big properties that are 100 acres and over, and I started looking at those 10s, those 5s. I started looking at this property's connected to this big farm, and there's a nice funnel coming into this little spot here. Started moving cameras here in the summer. Started doing a lot of glassing along with the
Mm-hmm.
door. And dude, I was able to find some really nice deer this year. And I met a guy. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say which police department he works for, but he
Smart.
runs an urban deer hunting division. He knows who he is, so I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah. Shout out to him. He knows.
Yeah. So he starts talking to me about it, and I'm like, man, like I've been wanting to try it. I'm gonna go all in, and started looking for properties. He kind of helped me a little bit, and I ended up finding a big deer. He was, I don't know where to go with this, but like, so I went in with this mindset that it was going to be easy,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, taking candy from a baby type deal.
Why is
And
that? Why did you think that?
I don't know, those deer you think are so used to people, and your scent's not going to matter.
Yeah, they're like drinking out of kiddie pools and shit.
Yeah, my access is going to be under the swing set. I'm going to go down the slide and get my stand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Go through
So
the hopscotch set up there on the side of the house. Right. That's what I think when I think urban hunting for the most part.
me too. And Uber to my spot. But
Uber to yeah. Get out. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Right.
but so yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, like this is going to be a walk in the park. No pun intended.
Yeah. Right.
But so I ended up getting access. I found this deer. I knocked on one door. It was a no. And I got 3 properties that surrounded it.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was in a different city. And another thing is like, I had to go through the police department. I had to jump through a bunch of hoops, archery proficiency test, full background check. There's a lot of stuff I had to do that would probably weed a lot of people out.
Yeah. Like guys with neck tattoos aren't hunting in the city.
Yeah. You wouldn't be like, occur.
Like you can't go in the backyard. There's kids around. I'm like, all right, I tried.
So the crazy thing about this deer was I had him on one camera, but I realized the deer's moving a lot. So I got permission across the street. But the thing was, it was right on the city line. So this deer was going from city A to city B all the time. So I through another police department. And so I could hunt the spot across the road.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I could ever have another story like this,
Pain in the ass, it sounds like, but
it was, but it, definitely worked out and was good. But I was hunting pretty close to a house. Had this deer pretty frequent throughout the summer. Ended up getting a Novix hung up in there. Well, 3-4 weeks before the season opener. Season opener, if I remember right, it was pretty warm. I kind of stayed out.
Does the urban season open the same time as just like normal season?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so I ended up filming Ben. We got that deer done, and I was making a move on my deer, And the fascinating part about the deer was I had to give him the wind 100% because like that parcel was so small that I couldn't move around, or else, I would be infringing on other people's property.
God, how weird.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, so my access and where my stand placement was I was set up to where if that deer came behind me, he was going to be walking in their yard and really exposing himself.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening was this deer was coming, he was bedding up on this ridge south of me. And he was overlooking the neighbor's house. He was sitting high up on a ridge. He was overlooking the neighbor's house, and he would work his way north, stage up in this area perfectly where I had my tree stand before feeding out in this big grass field.
Mm-hmm.
Literally off of a freeway in between a residential road. There just wasn't a whole lot of room for like me to move, but I felt like my access was perfect.
Right.
And if my scent game was on point, I felt confident I could beat this deer. But watching the cameras, he would only come in on a northerly type wind.
So are we talking, saying that, like you say you had to give him your wind. What are we talking like? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around. I'm now picturing like tight housing subdivision. You're in these people's backyards. Like I'm not picturing a lot of woods in here. But like, what makes this buck spooked from somebody in their backyard versus spooked from you just another 30 yards in your tree?
Well, so
and I like it too specific. Don't give your spot away, but
no, I won't. But so where that deer was bedding up on that ridge, he can see that whole neighbor's house and what's going on. I mean, you'd almost like to think that these deer kind of know people's schedules, like what's normal and what's normal out of, like what's normal and what's not normal out of these people. So like, let's just say at my parents, for instance, they live in the country setting, but they have a big hayfield right by their house that, their driveway runs right beside.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're like out by their driveway or out by their house, the deer that are in the hayfield, they'll just watch them and they're fine. But if you were to get in that big maple tree right in the middle of that hayfield that's 40 yards on out, you're going to scare them every time.
Yeah.
So those urban deer, they just know where it's normal for people to be and for them not to be. And
Makes
that's
sense.
my perspective of these city deer was, uh, it was wrong.
It was like
Like,
you probably thought wind doesn't really matter as much because they're just always smelling people and dogs and everything like
yeah,
that.
but what
Yeah.
they're not used to is smelling somebody that close or maybe up in a tree.
Yeah. And I really do. I mean, obviously deer can tell a difference in that.
Yeah, and this deer was old. I mean, this was the first year I hunted this deer, so I didn't know exactly how old he was. I was gonna age him with the jawbone, but I just never did. I was just got lazy. I don't know why. I wanted to know how old the deer was, but
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah.
So, and just to explain this deer real quick, like he had a weak side, one big side, points everywhere. He ended up having 25 scoreable points. Yeah, just super cool deer. But he had an injury. Let's see, it'd be on his left hoof, affected his right side. His right side was weaker, but yeah, big swollen up hoof. I mean, it was kind of nasty.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, back to my access. You know, he was bedding on this ridge. He could see the neighbor's yard. He was sitting up high, and then he would work his way with the wind, north wind right in his face. He would come and he would sweep out into this grass field. So he would stage where I had my stand. And so I realized like the pictures I'm getting, he's only coming in on a northerly wind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And so opener comes, we get a north wind and he daylights. That's the only time he would daylight, I should say. Like he would still win, but he would only daylight on a north wind.
I got you.
And so season comes. I don't know which date it was, but a north wind comes. I didn't hunt. I just wanted to see what would happen on that north wind. And sure enough, he daylights. The next 2 days are going to be a north wind, northerly type wind. And, you know, pressure's rising. DeerCast says good. Like it's going to get good. Ben kills. I go out the very next day. I got this 3-year-old super 8-point, just beautiful deer come in, comes in downwind, kind of knows something's up, but you know, like I've taken my scent elimination to a whole other level this season, knowing I'm going to have to give this deer my win. And so this 3-year-old 8-point comes in. I get the pass with him. He stages up in there and ends up working his way to my right out of my life. And he comes back in from the right, like right underneath me, and working his way directly downwind. So it was a or northwest wind that
Mm-hmm.
night. Grass field off to my left, the one that, you know, was like a destination feed. So northwest 8-point gets right here, probably 15 yards from me. I got this all on video. I'm self-filming. And I look up and Tat is out in that grass field, like on the edge. And he's scent checking everything before he, you know, comes in and stages in there. And I'm like, oh man, you know, this 8-point is 15 yards from me. And I don't know if he caught me moving. You know, I got the camera like up here. I had it too high, but the way I was tucked in this tree, I had this like bird's nest around me. It was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. But I had to have the camera a little bit higher. And so I don't know if he saw me, but I mean, dude, he just had me pegged. And I'm like, man, like the only crack I could possibly get at this deer, and this freaking 8-point's going to ruin it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So Tat starts working his way in. I think he steps on a stick. The 8-point turns around. So I'm like, all right, this is perfect. I grab my bow. I get stood up. Tat's working his way in, and the 8-point starts like stomping. And I'm like, oh, man, like, you know, he's literally 12, 15 yards. Tat comes in and he starts turning around. And so I drew and
How close is he at this point?
he's like 25, 30 yards.
Okay.
And he just had me rattled. And I took a shot, honestly, like, I don't even know why I took the shot. Like, for just a quick moment, I had a quartering away hard, and I thought I could tuck it up in there. And like right when I like shoot, like he turns and it's like a straight shot now. So the video, the shot looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did I even take that shot? So he runs out in that grass field to my left about 50 yards and ends up just trotting off. And I mean, I was crushed. I'm like, man, like you just don't get that many opportunities, like how many opportunities you get with an old mature deer like that?
Yeah,
I'm
not
thinking,
many.
yeah, I'm thinking he's 6+. And I'm just like, man, I blew it. And
So you
so
mix and it like bounce off the kid's slide and put a hole in the kiddie pool and like,
yeah.
damn, pay for that.
So let me explain here. So ahead of me, it pinches down.
I didn't mean to put you on blast there.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a timber funnel ridge system. It pinches down a lot. And that's what I'm facing with that grass field to the left. I can't see any houses really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so it opens up the farther you go south, and that's where he was bedding, and it opens up in this bigger timber. And so anyway, he ends up taking off, and I'm like, it's early still. I'm like, man, what do I do? Like, I called Ben and told him and what happened, and I'm like, I think I should just get out. Like it's early. I'm gonna just let things chill. My Luminox sitting there lighted up. I'm like, if he comes in, I don't want him to see that and like freak out.
Yeah.
So I get down, grab my arrow, head home. It's an hour drive home, a long hour drive home.
Yeah. I was gonna say that you just sit in your own thoughts for an hour,
listening to Gary Allen.
Yeah.
And
just having a time.
Yeah. I get home and it's just now getting last light, and my Spartan goes off, and I saw him like way in the background of this picture, and I'm like, oh man, like, so now I'm thinking, so instantly I run out to my truck, I grab all my stuff out of my tote, throw it back in the washer, wash it again, like I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff and complaining to my wife. Like I don't know how many times she heard me say, I can't believe I missed him.
Well, hey, you can't kill big bucks if your wife sucks. So shout out to her for listening to everything you had to say.
Oh, dude, she is the best. She listens to everything. Like, I'm so impressed. Like, sometimes she goes, man, shouldn't you be getting ready to hunt? Like, there's a good cold front. The pressure's rising. I'm like, gosh, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to have another baby?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, capped out.
Yeah.
So she listens to you basically pour your soul out and whine.
Yeah. It was a rough night, but dude, I had a lot of hope after that. Like I beat his nose. Like he knew something was up, but he just couldn't pinpoint me. Like, I wouldn't even let her hug and kiss me goodbye.
Yeah.
I had all my
face palm as she goes in to give you a hug. Just grab her face. Not exactly. Now. I'm like, in the zone.
But don't touch me.
Yeah. Don't touch me.
So there was definitely some positives to take away from that night of missing that deer. And that was, I was able to beat his nose. Ben hates when I say that, beat them.
You never fully beaten them. They're just not
alarmed fooled him. By you. How about that?
You fooled them. That's probably the most humble way to really say it, because that's what you're doing. You just got past them.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
Really.
It is luck, but you wouldn't have got past them if you wouldn't have been taking like extreme scent control measures.
No, dude, not at all. Like if it was a careless scent control, like, man, it would have never happened. I probably would have never even seen that deer.
Mm-hmm.
So that night I washed all my stuff again, hanging it outside for the night. The next day looks good. I got one more north wind. It switches from a northwest to a northeast. So I'm like, let's go. I got that picture of him at last light, probably too dark for footage. And that's the main goal. If I'm not going to get footage of him, I'm not going to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, definitely some pros to take from it. I gear up for the next day, go back out, get out nice and early, switches to a northeast this time. And dude, he comes in from my right this time.
Mm-hmm.
Just straight downwind again. And not to like pump product, but I had a Black Widow. We use Black Widow deer scents, and I have this dominant buck scent, and I'm just pumping it. And I did that the night before too. But I mean, I probably used a whole bottle between the 2 nights. I'm just pumping this dominant urine, just trying to do anything to fool this deer. He comes in from my right, completely downwind, and it takes him like 30 minutes to work his way in, dude. And it was like the
Wow.
longest 30 minutes of my life. He was super on edge.
How far was he? I mean, I know he's slowly working to you, like, but when you first see him, how far is he?
Oh, he was bedding on that ridge again. He walked the top of the ridge, and the first time I saw him, he was probably like 45 yards.
Okay.
So he was just, dude, I mean, he was just taking his time, staging in there
Yeah.
is what he was doing. And so I'm like, I don't think I've ever been so rattled by a deer. Like you grow so obsessed with a certain deer.
Yeah.
You spend so much time and effort with that one deer. You're trying to do everything right. You've got so much invested. Like when you finally see him and it's about to happen, like I'd rather it just happen fast and get it over with.
I would too at times. I'm pulling up the picture of your deer here so I can stare at it as you're talking. That's a topic for when you guys are in studio, like come in fast or come in slow, but
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I like to happen fast, but dude, this buck had me so rattled and frazzed, from missing him the night before. Like I'm already in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
And I shot my bow that day before I went out. It was an evening hunt, so I spent the day shooting, and I was completely dialed and ready. And so 40 yards, he's staging up in there. I know he's going to come in. He's just taking his time. I've got great footage. I'm self filming still. He's coming in with 2 other bucks. It's still early. I think it was September 28th. I killed him.
Oh,
I think.
gee. Ohio,
Yeah.
you're in, well, wherever state you were in, opens
Yeah.
that early.
Yeah. This season, it's always the what is it? The last Saturday of September.
Oh, I don't know why I was thinking. I think I knew that, but I was thinking you guys open October 1.
So it opened on the 24th, and I shot him on either the 28th or 29th. I can't remember.
Damn. Okay.
I
In my head, for some reason, I was just thinking this was October, but okay.
No, so it always opens on that last Saturday of September, and it just happened to fall on the 24th this year, which was like really early.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, so, they're still kind of bachelored up. And the reason I say that is because I got comments. I posted a little reel, and I posted that video of him coming in on our YouTube, and they were like, "Oh, this is high fence. Look at all the other bucks with him and stuff." I'm like, "No, dude, like." Or they said like, "What kind of zoo are you in?" and stuff like that. I'm like, "Well,
Really
it's
good zoo. A lot of deer in this zoo, actually.
the Midwest, and it's early, so they're kind of still grouped up." But
okay.
So he comes in with that 8-point that was in there the night before with him.
Yeah.
And so I've got a good 3-year-old deer that's got some good senses on him, along with this older buck that I already missed. He's already kind of on alert. He's coming in. He's taking his time, really just, downwind 100%. I'm pumping that Dominator spray. And he ends up coming in to 20, 25 yards roughly, and stands there forever facing me. Kind of like, so if you ever see the footage, which you will, and I don't know if you ever saw the reels I posted of them, but my camera's 2 foot to my right. And so the angle that the camera sees is like, why did you take that shot? Because he's quartering.
Yeah.
But with me sitting 2 feet to the left, I'm seeing something totally different than what this camera is seeing. And the whole time, 25 yards, it's a chip shot. I'm sitting there debating, like, what I'm saying is lungs exiting what liver maybe coming out. It's like lethal shot.
Yeah, for sure.
And for 6.5 minutes or so, I'm like debating, like, do I take this shot? And finally, like, I make it up in my mind, like, dude, if this deer just decides to turn and just walk out of my life, like, maybe I won't have a shot again, which I probably would have. But, I'm not going to take the chance. If I've got a lethal shot at 20, 25 yards, I'm probably going to take it.
He's right there right now.
Yeah. So I had to clear some branches. I made some adjustments from that night before. I noticed that I was going to have to stand up to shoot, but I trimmed some branches and stuff out of my way as I got sat in there so I could sit down and still have this nest of, cover and foliage around me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I felt like standing up, I was kind of exposing myself because there was kind of a bare spot in the tree. So I wanted to make sure like I could sit down and shoot.
Yeah.
And so I was going to, but then like he had his head down. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to stand up. And so I stand up, everything's good. I go ahead and pull back. And it's like he goes back like this to bite on himself. He's going to scratch himself. And I was like, oh my gosh, he just exposes everything.
Yeah.
And so I let one fire, dude, and I actually spine shot him. Like, it was so weird because it doesn't look like an extremely high hit, but he did duck a little. But I still made a bad shot. It was still high,
Mm-hmm.
but I did spine shoot him, so he drops, and I'm like, oh my gosh, got to get another arrow in him. I get another arrow in him, and killed him. So like the spine shot and stuff was like, dang it, like I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. But you never want to do that, but
Yeah, so it kind of like ruined my excitement at first, but
well,
walking up,
a spine shot will kind of knock the wind out of you because all you think about is another arrow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you can hear me in the video. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I was able to get another arrow in him, and
So he ran 0 yards.
yeah, well, he actually crawled like 15 yards.
Yeah, and
like,
that's worse. You're like, dang it.
oh, I know, dude. It looked bad, but like,
Yeah. But hey, you got to get another arrow in him. Like that's the number one priority right after that first hit.
Footage went out the window. I was like, I'm gonna get another arrow, and I'm like, I'm not gonna follow this deer as he's like trying to crawl.
No, yeah, good on you.
I got a quick arrow on him, hurry up and got down. Like all the cameras were like left rolling. I care less at that point. I just wanted to make sure, he was taken care of. And
Yeah.
he was. So, but yeah, dude, and the body was just enormous. I was like, holy crap. He was a giant, man.
That's awesome, dude. That's
so
awesome.
It was special, man. It was quite the urban experience. And, I learned a lot about those deer in particular.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I just thought it was going to be a whole lot easier, and it turns out it wasn't, And
yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad I know that because I kind of have that. Not that I thought, killing a big buck anywhere is not easy, but I kind of had that perception as well, a little bit, not knowing.
Yeah. Well, then being around all those people and stuff, I mean, it's kind of hard not to have that perspective. And I totally get people that were probably going to end up bashing me on the video and, saying, but, I was so open about it. Every time I went in there, I was like, this is my urban spot. This is what I'm going to be doing in here today. And, kind of leading up to it, dude, he had some trees in there that were just giant, just shredded. And, all of a sudden that makes you a little excited.
Everybody in the subdivision's mad because all their fresh plant tree. So to get them out of there, did you like, hey, knock on Brad's door? Can I borrow your lawnmower with your mulching trailer so I can go in and get them out so I don't have to drive my, you know what I mean?
No, it was a pretty short drag. Called a buddy and he came out to help me load them up, and so
that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so he had 25 scoreable. I'm not trying to brag, but it was my biggest deer.
That's
25,
awesome.
25 scoreable points, just stuff everywhere. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Devon's like barnacle buck.
Yeah. All the bases are just crazy.
All over the bases. It just made them really cool. Chocolate horns and stuff like that. And Buckmasters, like a true like gross score. They scored him at 178.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm looking at the picture you got of him. He does have a lot of crazy curved up hook points and stuff like that.
On that weak side, he's got like these devil horns. It looks like a pitchfork almost. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Super cool. He's just very unique.
Old hog, dude. Yeah, very cool. That's a very unique buck. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome. So the footage was amazing on the night I missed him and the night I killed him. So tons of history on the Spartans and stuff. So I'm just super excited, for everyone to show that or, see that. I work so hard filming and documenting everything all summer long. Like you're going to see me knocking on doors like crazy. And
when's this episode launch roughly?
We try to launch our episodes like July, like right when everyone's getting excited about, deer season and putting cameras out and stuff like that. We like to kind of, stoke the
makes
fire.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That's right. When our you see that you'll see that too, because you're a podcaster now.
Yeah.
You'll see that with the download numbers. Like right now they're good, and then they dip, and then they get July, they just start throttling up again because everyone's, I stay in all that stuff because we live it, but there's a lot of guys that throttle out and then throttle back in.
Yeah.
So you'll see that.
I'm searching for content all year long. I'm a student of the game. I want to learn as much as I can, and podcasts are, one way to, learn so much. And, it's almost like you listen to these podcasts and different guests, like you've had so many knowledgeable guests on, and there's just a plethora of information out there to where you could really create like a monster. You're listening to what Mark Jury's tactics are, and you hop over on this podcast, you're listening to Lee Lakowski's,
yeah,
you can really create like a monster of this guy's tactics and take this guy's. It's almost like Space Jam, those little aliens, and take
yeah. Well, and that's what blows my mind. And I'm not like calling anybody out specifically, but there's there's two categories. We're pushing time here, so we might have to do your mom's story here at the studio when you come here and talk about how she killed a bigger buck than you. But
no, it wasn't bigger.
It wasn't. It looks massive. I thought it was, but we'll just say that for the sake of the podcast, right? But
we do need to talk about that deer, though.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you see guys that there's people who started podcasting that already had a name in the space, and there's people who started as a podcaster, started a podcast and just didn't have a name anywhere else before that. And the majority of people who started the podcast, I don't know, I don't say even the majority. There's a lot of guys who have podcasts that don't kill deer, that try to educate on killing deer, whether it's them telling you how to do it with no results. They walk the walk, they don't talk the talk, but then all their guests walk the walk and talk the talk. But you kind of look at that, you're like, man, how come you've never applied all this information you've gotten from guests over X amount of episodes in your own deer hunting?
Yeah.
So, to me, it blows my mind. Like, you just have no results, but you're taking the best classes you can take in this topic.
Exactly.
You have a degree as a doctor, but you just never figured out how to actually be a doctor. It's like, what are you doing?
I've met that doctor before.
Right. It's like, what did you do all those classes and spend all that money for, and dedicate all that time, and you're just like, you never applied anything you learned in your classes to actually being a doctor? No one's going to go to your practice.
Yeah.
I mean, still do that with hunting content.
Yeah. No offense to any of those people, but I mean, that's not the podcast I want to listen to. I want to listen to,
right.
Like, I want to listen to people that have been there, done that. And I want to listen to their guests that have been there and done that. Like, I just don't want to listen to people that are either below me or, like, that sounds terrible.
There's no good way to talk about it without sounding a little bit like an a-hole, a little bit.
I want to learn from the best.
Yeah.
That's the best way to, put it. Like, there's, like I said, there's just so much information out there. And, like the Whitetail Edge podcast, for instance, like, no one's going to want to listen to the Whitetail Edge podcast unless Ben's on it.
Dude, you're not giving yourself enough credit.
Well, I'm just saying, like, no one knows who
until they get familiar with what you've done on that podcast. Yes, you're right, probably. But as people listen and get familiar with who you are, you know what you're talking about, obviously. Otherwise, this story would have been so lame. And I would have been like, this guy's full of shit. But until people get that and become regular with it, dude, you got to think, our podcast, nobody knew who we were, episode 1.
Yeah. We
didn't have a Ben or a Mark Jury to co-host us until they were like, all right, you're good. Now we're taking off the training wheels.
Yeah.
It's just a hustle. That's all it is.
It does give you motivation, though, to become that person. And obviously, like, I want to have.
I'm not a 200-inch buck killer by any means. I'm not saying that.
Me neither. I'm still like kind of in that. I'm still in a stage. Me and Ben Rising and Mark Jury and stuff like that. Like, we're in different stages. I believe almost like you and I are probably in that same stage still, where like, we're not going to let a good 4-year-old 160 walk past us. Probably.
I can't do it. It's tough.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it either.
Yeah.
Like, there's still bucks that are too tempting for me that Ben would let walk. but
For
it's
sure.
just like this is all part of the process. Like,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know, my wall doesn't look like Ben's. Hopefully one day, probably not going to look like Ben's.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Ben was in that process too at one point where, you know, he wasn't
Growth.
going to let a 4-year-old 160 walk either,
Yeah.
you
For
know.
sure.
So I'm still building a resume, but I want to listen to the
Same.
guys that the resume, like Ben Rising or Mark Jury, like people
Yeah.
that have really figured this out. Like we can take their tactics and create a monster.
100%. And I guess what I was getting, there's guys not building a resume that are still trying to be like they are building a resume, I guess. Like guys can be good talkers with no results, and that makes their show probably listenable. But I like to know, like when I support someone's brand, whether it's outside the hunting industry or in it, I want to know the person with the brand.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
if I'm into drag racing and this guy's a really good talker and he's telling me all about drag racing, and then I look into him to like, oh, cool, I want to learn about this host. I enjoy his show. If I found out he doesn't know anything about drag racing, nor he's never even drag raced,
He's never won a race.
then why the hell am I going to listen to anything that guy's got to say? Now,
Yeah.
it's different too. Like, there's a lot of ways to slice that, and there's a lot of debates and a lot of arguments in there. But I think it's fun conversation. That's it.
It is. It is.
So,
But just saying. And then another thing, you know, you can listen to all these people and try to create that monster, but there's still stuff that you have got to learn on your own. Like there's so much that I have learned just on my own from failing. Like, dude, carrying a camera in the woods and self filming is so hard.
mm-hmm.
Like, there's so much, there's things that you're gonna run into, and whether it be your setup or what happened, and you're gonna like, you're just gonna know next time, well, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna have it set up here. But you know, those variables change, and it comes with experience that you're gonna learn things along the way from maybe nobody can teach you.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
there's it all comes down to experience.
Real experience. Absolutely. I agree with that. So let's talk.
But
We're running short on time, but I want to talk about your mom's buck real quick.
I do too. So we'll make this short. Mom is pretty new to hunting. I think maybe 5-6 years of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
They own acres. My parents do. Mom, you know, has cut her teeth just like any of us have, and trying to, you know, she's just learning. She's learning as much as she can. She's a pretty good student too. But so we had a buck this year. You know, she's never shot anything real big, like some dinkers actually.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's all part of the process again.
It is.
She skipped a couple of steps this year. So I had this buck show up on the Spartan this year, and I think I had him last year, and I'll have to look into this. But super tiny body, huge rack, 14 points, kicker off a G2, tall tines. I'm like, dude, this deer is serious. Like,
Yeah.
this deer has genetics that you'll never see again in your life. Knowing for sure, like this deer's 3, there's zero doubt this deer's 4. Like his
I'm
body's
watching
just
the reel you posted of the deer right now while you're talking about this.
you can tell he's 3. Right? Or
I
are
mean,
you looking
of
are
her
you looking at
sitting with it.
Oh, okay. So if you look at my Instagram, Kurt, like I think the night before I posted a trail cam video.
Yep.
Look how slender he is.
I'd say he's 3 or just a slim 4-year-old.
Yeah, but dude, like if I show you other videos, I'll text them to you after this. But I'll show you some other videos. You're like, dude, no doubt that deer is 3.
Okay. Yeah, I mean he doesn't look heavy bodied.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, I don't know. We're gonna have Buckmaster score him up, but I'm thinking he's like 70.
Dang, I can see that. Look at this. Yeah. He's got points all over, man.
He's jacked. 70. So let's just say he is 70. Let's say he's 160 at the worst, which I know he's bigger than that, but
he's bigger than 160.
Let's say he's 160 at 3. Dude, it's scary to know what that deer could turn into.
Yeah, right. And I need to look more into that Buckmaster score system. I don't know much about it, to be honest.
It's just a true gross score. Like that's all it is.
Okay.
It's no deductions. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's how they should be scored. That's a
which,
stud, dude. Congrats to.
yeah, which there, on that deer, there isn't a ton of deductions. I mean, there's the kicker and what have you, but
I love his frame, man, and everything. He doesn't have a weak point on him.
no. So definitely probably the biggest 3-year-old I'll ever see in my life. I showed Ben and he goes, dude, I've never seen a 3-year-old that big in my life.
Yeah.
I feel, and so does Ben, like that deer could have been the next world typical record. Like
At 6 or something, 5.5, 6.5.
dude, like it's no telling what he would be next year. But
Can't do
anyway,
that, though. It's cool to think about, but
yeah,
that's cool, man. That's very cool. What she shot? Does she understand like the magnitude of what this is?
Yeah. Well, I told her like this deer is going to be the next world record and stuff like that. But she's new. I couldn't expect her to pass that deer up. The neighbors are hunting him. They only own 30 acres. Like, that deer is going to get killed probably.
Yeah, for sure.
She ends up shooting it. I'm at my daughter's friend had a birthday party. I look at my phone. There's 8 missed calls from my mom. I'm like, I call her back.
Hurt or something happened.
She's like, yeah. She's like, where have you been? Look at your phone. So I look at the text and, she propped her phone up in a tree and took a picture of her with this deer. I'm like, no, you didn't, Mom. So we over there and yeah, she totally understands like what this deer was. And she sent me a picture of it skull capped last night. And I was like, that's a stud. She goes, I never thought you would say my deer was a stud.
That's so awesome, man. That is so awesome.
She totally gets, what she shot. So yeah, I'm super her, but what that deer could have been was special. And then just here real quick, we might have some, my dad is after a giant, probably 180. He was 5 in 2018 and we had a picture of him and he is a giant, probably 180. And then my brother's getting ready to come in town and I got like a 170 for him. So like it could be a banner year for the Gandees.
That would be cool, man. That would be cool. If that happens, you guys need to do like that classic, here's all our mounts on the barn photo. Some people love and hate those. I think they're cool. Yeah. But as a family, you have to do that.
Yeah, dude, not too many moms out there shooting 170s.
No, not many at all. Maybe Doug's mom, but that's about it.
Right.
We need to do a mom's podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be dangerous. We'd be getting a lot of comments about everybody's moms, and I don't know if we want that or not.
Probably not.
We don't really want that. Well, dude, where can people find you? Where can people find Whitetail Edge?
All right, so you can find me easily and probably most of my content on Dylon Gandee _ Whitetail Edge. That's Dylan with an O. And then Whitetail Edge Official on Instagram, on our Facebook, YouTube. We even got a TikTok. And then the Whitetail Edge podcast.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for sharing those stories. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are killing it. Looking forward to get you and Ben in the studio, the WCB. We don't really have an official name, honestly, but just get you in the WCB studio.
Good.
What's that?
I think just leave it at WCB studio.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Cool, man. Well, thank you. Great story. That was a really good buck story. I'm glad to hear you didn't put a hole in the kiddie pool next door or ruin any games of jump rope or hopscotch or anything like that in your urban hunt.
Me too, man. I appreciate you, Kurt.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for the support. And I will be there to help you with your podcast anytime you need me, for the record.
You've been so helpful. I really appreciate that, man. You're a great dude.
You are too, buddy. Well, I appreciate you. Everybody, thank you so much. Listening, watching, supporting us, supporting Whitetail Edge on DeerCast as well. If you don't have DeerCast or you're listening just on the WCB side of things, what are you even doing? Get the app. Support us, support the jury, support Whitetail Edge. You know what to do. Go shoot a giant. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Peace.